Hello, everyone, and welcome to another special episode of Ladies Lounge. We have three guests. We have Dr. Mark. Hello, Dr. Mark.
Hello.
Hi, you're welcome. We have Emmanuel. Welcome, Emmanuel.
Hey.
And we have Carol. Welcome, Carol. We are happy to have you today. We're happy to be on your screens. Today, we are going with the NHS on this journey. The NHS latest Help Us Help You campaign encourages people to have a heart-to-heart with loved ones about the seriousness of heart attacks, raising awareness of the symptoms so that if you or somebody you're with experience them, you can get help as quickly as possible. So we're here having just that, a heart-to-heart. Let's talk about heart attacks and save lives. Okay, so I'll go straight to Dr. Mark to ask some very pertinent questions, really. We want to hear them clearly because, I mean, this is our health, right? And so I would start by asking Dr. Mark why it's important for our viewers to know more about heart attacks.
Hi. So heart and circulatory disease, also known as cardiovascular disease, is a major cause of death in the UK. In fact, it causes at least a quarter of deaths in the UK. It's the largest cause of premature mortality in deprived areas, and it's the single biggest area where the NHS can help save lives.
Right. So this is why we need to know more, yes. Really.
So,
yeah.
I mean, in terms of a heart attack is where part of the heart muscle dies as a result of a blockage of a heart artery called coronary arteries. So artery gets blocked off, there's no oxygen going to the heart muscle, and that muscle dies. Right. And that is the cause of heart attack. And the aim of this campaign is to, one, avoid that from happening, or if someone does get a heart attack, to get the treatment as quick as possible, because we have treatments that are already available in most NHS hospitals. And the quicker you can get to it, get the artery opened up, the better outcome, the less damage to the heart muscle, and a better outcome for the long term for the patient themselves.
Yeah. So what are the signs of a heart attack?
So the signs of a heart attack can vary. So some people get chest pain or chest tightness. You can get radiation of pain up towards the neck or down the arm. Some people just get breathlessness. If you're diabetic, you may actually, or even elderly, you may not get any symptoms. So that's why sometimes hearts can be missed. But the main thing, of course, is if you do get chest pain, not to ignore it, not to say, oh, it's going to pass, but take it seriously, because you can be in the midst of a heart attack. And it's best to seek help, and it turns out that you haven't got a heart attack, than to not seek help and the damage is done.
Right. So the major thing is the chest pain, the tightness in the chest.
Tightness in the chest, and a feeling of unease, just feeling generally unwell. Some people get nausea, vomiting, sweaty. Those are sort of main symptoms. In fact, some people present with what they think is indigestion, so they get a bit of burn in the tummy area, and they think, oh, it's a bit of indigestion, and actually it's having a heart attack. So if any at all you think that you might be having a heart attack, or a loved one might be having a heart attack, don't ignore the symptoms. Call NHS 111, call 999, seek help.
If you have the other symptoms in isolation, I mean, like the pain in the left arm, I know is one of the pains that it's an alarm bell. So if you have like a left arm pain, for example, or jaw or neck or back or tummy ache, if you have those in isolation, should you still seek help as though you're having a heart attack?
If you still think that you move the arm and it's not actually making a difference, and it's not as if you've done any strenuous activity that's brought the pain on. So you feel genuinely unwell. You've got the arm ache, you've got the neck ache, you're feeling nauseous, then you should seek help. I said it's easier to call for help, and it turns out that it's not the problem, than to actually ignore it, and you get the damage.
Right.
The businessman would say, time is money. As a cardiologist, I would say time is myocardium. Myocardium is another name for heart muscle. So the quicker you can get the artery opened up, the quicker you can get blood going back to the artery, the quicker you can get oxygen going back to the heart muscle,
Right.
and less damage there is.
Right. So,
Sorry.
right. Thank you. Yeah. So timing is everything in this situation.
Yeah.
Timing, the quicker you get the help. Okay. So while the most common symptom is chest pain, symptoms can vary from person to person, obviously. So why are people from Black backgrounds at higher risk of heart attack?
So one of the major causes of, or one of the associated risk factors for heart attacks is hypertension or high blood pressure. And
Okay.
our population, we do see quite a lot of high blood pressure in our population. And the problem is hypertension itself, you may not have any symptoms, and so you don't know that you've got high blood pressure. So you could have it underlying, not know about it, and the first time you know about it is when it's caused a problem, i.e. you've caused a heart attack or you've become short of breath because you've had damage to the heart muscle. Or in fact, in a personal case, someone has passed away and it turns out after the fact that they had high blood pressure that was not treated properly. Or not treated at all.
For chest pain, does it mean that any chest pain you have to rush to doctors? Because sometimes you have chest pain and they go by themselves. I mean, sometimes I get chest pain and it goes by itself. So how would you know what's the difference between a minor chest pain that relates to something else compared to a chest pain that is a heart attack that you need to run to the hospital?
It can be difficult, but normally, if you hurt yourself, if you done some strenuous lifting, you'll know about that. But again, if it's pain that's persisting, and you're feeling genuinely unwell with it, so you're feeling nauseous, you're vomiting, and it's persisting despite resting, despite sitting down, despite taking paracetamol, and it's not made a difference, then again, I wouldn't ignore it. You get stories of patients who said, "Oh, I had this pain and I had it all night. I thought it was indigestion, but I didn't want to bother you. I didn't want to bother doctors, and that's the last thing we want. We want you to actually make a call early rather than later. If you think you've having a heart attack, I wouldn't even say call the GP. 999 NHS 1 because it's an emergency. It's not something to wait to get a GP appointment for. It's something to act on immediately."
Yeah, so timing is everything in this situation.
Yeah.
Timing, the quicker you get the help. Okay, so while the most common symptom is chest pain, symptoms can vary from person to person, obviously. So why are people from Black backgrounds at higher risk of heart attack?
So one of the major causes of, or one of the associated risk factors for heart attacks is hypertension or high blood pressure. And
okay.
Our population, we do see quite a lot of high blood pressure in our population. And the problem is hypertension itself, you may not have any symptoms, and so you don't know that you've got high blood pressure. So you could have it underlying, not know about it, and the first time you know about it is when it's caused a problem, i.e. you've caused a heart attack or you've become short of breath because you've had damage to the heart muscle. Or in fact, in a personal case, someone has passed away and it turns out after the fact that they had high blood pressure that was not treated properly. Or not treated at all. The other thing as well is that I think many in our population mix up a heart attack with a cardiac arrest. And they actually are two different distinct things. So a heart attack is, as I've discussed, is where the problem with the blood supply to the heart, there's not sufficient oxygen getting to the heart muscle dies as a result. So whereas a cardiac arrest is where there's the sudden erratic rhythm of the heart itself. So rather than contracting normally, it fibrillates, it shakes. So it's not able to put out oxygen and the person passes out. If you feel like there's no pulse, and that's the situation where it's cardiac arrest, and if not treated rapidly, that person can die.
There has been a survey done, and the NHS believe that people of the Black community lack confidence in coming forward with these symptoms. What would you have to say about that?
I think that it's true. First of all, lack confidence is coming forward. Oh, it's something else. It must be something like AIDS. It's indigestion. And so we'll not feel confident to just pick up the phone and call for help. Or it's sometimes so stoical that we ignore it. It can't be that. It can't be me. I'm too young, or I'm Black. We don't get heart attacks. Actually, that's not the case.
Amazing. So it's important for everybody watching to know that there is treatment available, and it is better to call in and find out that it's nothing than to leave it till last minute, because time is of essence. So, Dr. Mark, what age group would you say is most affected by heart attacks?
It's most common, I'd say, in the over 50s, but saying that, we are seeing heart attacks in younger people. I remember as a junior doctor, first patient I saw was 28 years old who had a heart attack. So it can occur in 20s and above, but I said more common in the over 50s.
Is it something that's increasing in the younger generation now, based on our diets or additives in foods? Can you please shed some light on that?
So it's not as common in younger people, in the young population. So obviously the patient case that I saw in the 28-year-old would have been an anecdotal case rather than the norm.
Okay.
But saying that, I've seen heart attacks in 30-year-olds, 40-plus-year-olds, and of course, I see them in those who are over 50. But if you compare the diet that, say, we have and to the diet that our ancestors may have had, they're different. And and in fact, now in the Caribbean and Africa, it's probably seen it more often now because of the westernized diet that's been taken on board with the increased risk factors associated with that. The sedate lifestyle, so sitting down, sitting at the computer, sitting down watching TV, not actually out on the farm or out working, sedate lifestyle, which has contributed to a generally unhealthy or more unhealthy population, with the obviously increased risk of the diet that's contributed to this risk of developing heart attacks.
Right. And just as we have Emmanuel here who had a heart attack as a young person, but we will come to him to ask him about his experience. So it is common for over 50s, you've said, or we are seeing it. I mean, I'm a medical professional. You are seeing it, in younger people. So can heart attacks be controlled or avoided? What precautions can we take?
So the aim is to essentially control the risk factors. So the main risk factors for coronary or cardiovascular disease are high blood pressure, diabetes, smoking, high cholesterol levels. Those you can do things about. Of course, there's a family history which you can't change, but the things that you can actually make a difference on. So not smoking, getting your cholesterol controlled. If you have first of all, identifying whether you've got high blood pressure or not, and if you have got it, get it treated. Cholesterol control and things that will also help with the diet and exercise.
We've gotten a wealth of information from Dr. Mark from a medical perspective, and we're now going to move on to a personal point of view as we speak to someone who has actually experienced and survived a heart attack. And we are joined today by Carol. Welcome to Ladies Lounge. It is definitely a pleasure to have you on the show today. And it is so vitally important that we get your firsthand experience of this, of something that you've not only experienced, but survived. So were you aware of any of the symptoms of a heart attack before you had one?
Yes, I was very much aware of heart attack symptoms, predominantly because I am a health professional. I was aware of heart attack symptoms.
Take us back. I know it may actually be a bit unsettling, but hopefully it's not. If you could kindly take us back to what you were doing on the day that you had the heart attack.
Yes, so that's the day that, of course, I won't ever forget. January 22nd, 2018. I went to work. I was doing an early shift with the intention of leaving, going home for some lunch, and then going back to work. So about sort of 11:45, thereabout, I was winding up my shift and noticed that I had what I thought was indigestion symptoms. One of the reasons was that I was fasting. I'm a Christian and we sometimes fast. So I hadn't eaten and I just thought, oh, when I get home, I'll eat. So of course, I didn't put anything else to it than that. So I got in my car and proceeded to drive home. My friend, who is also a doctor, had worked a night shift and for some reason was waiting up to talk to me. I later learned that she just wanted to talk about her shift that wasn't very nice. But we didn't get that. So whilst I was talking to her using the answering phone on my way home, she called. And I realized that this indigestion symptom was still there. So I said to her, her name is Tracy, Dr. Tracy Bemper. I said, Trace, I don't usually get chest pains, but this discomfort in my chest doesn't seem to be going. And she went into doctor's mode and she started asking me all the questions that you would ask as a doctor. You know, where exactly is the pain? How long has it been there? Are you getting any other symptoms like Dr. Mark was explaining? Is it going down your arm? All of those. And none of those was there. And the other thing was that I didn't have any conventional risk factors, as Dr. Mark mentioned. I've never smoked, I don't drink, my blood pressure was normal, cholesterol was normal. So it just did not add up. So we then decided that, okay, we're not sure what's going on, but if you're still having these symptoms after a while, then you need to go and see a doctor. And so we left it at that. But I, in my mind, thought I'm going to be passing the A&E department on my way home. So if things get worse, I'll just go park the car, is what I told myself, and go into A&E. We didn't get that far. Just as we went a little bit further down the road, I realized that I couldn't concentrate on what she was saying, and I was also driving. So I said, Trace, this is not right. I need to pull over. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to call 999. So she called 999. I pulled the car over on the curb out of harm's way.
Okay.
And once I did that, I started feeling more unwell. I started to get what we would call chest book symptoms. So central crushing pain. I started sweating. I started feeling a bit confused. I wanted to lower the car window so that I could get some fresh air, and I couldn't work out how to press the buttons. And I just felt it was doom and gloom. I put my hand through the window when I managed to wind it, just to wave my arms to get a passerby to alert them that I wasn't well. But of course, everybody was going their merry way. Nobody was listening. It was an awful moment, because at that moment, I realized this is definitely a heart attack. And of course, having a heart attack, I realized I could have died there on my own in the car. It wasn't nice.
Wow. So I was actually going to ask you if you knew that it was indeed a heart attack, but you've just clarified that you did know. And I feel that, what was your immediate reaction once that acknowledgement that, okay, this is a heart attack, this is what's happening? What was your immediate reaction or first thought when that reality hit you?
Well, like I said, I thought, this is a heart attack. I could die on my own in this time. How sad that would be. Hence the reason for, trying to alert somebody. But at the same time, I was reassured later on that I would be okay. Maybe, because of my faith, and I felt that reassurance that I'd be okay. But the reality, I was able to acknowledge. And as a result of that, despite the fact that my friend had already called 999, I still called 999 again, because by this time it felt like an eternity that I was waiting. They came within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But I called again and I said to them, I am a doctor. I think I'm having a heart.
And how has life been for you after the heart attack, if you don't mind sharing with us a little bit?
But not at all. It has definitely been a life-changing event, totally. So if you take it from the physical side, my story is a little bit different and complicated, because unfortunately all the lines didn't, or the holes, if you like, didn't line up at the time. And so despite seeking help early, the time within which I got the treatment that I should have had was a little bit prolonged than it should have been. And as Dr. Mark mentioned earlier, time, we say, is muscle.
Yes.
Time is muscle. And so I've sustained a little bit more damage to my heart than I would have. Normally, I actually have level 2 heart failure. So I do have a mild heart failure. And that's because of the delay getting the blockage removed from the blood vessel that's supplying my heart muscle. And if there is no blood going to the heart muscle, it's gonna be damaged, and the extent of the damage can be greater if there's a longer time. So I do have some degree of heart failure. So that's something that I have to contend with. It means that I can't. I'm quite good. So I do my exercises and I eat well, and I do take my tablets as well that help to strengthen the heart muscles, increase the blood flow, and all of those things. So I'm generally doing quite well. But that's, again, due to my diligence, lifestyle, and awareness, because I know what I ought to do and I do it. So physically, I used to, for example, go to the park and challenge my two sons to a sprint. I can't do that anymore, simply because it's not good for me to just give my heart that sudden, insult. I would build up. So I can still climb, do a bit of hiking. I can still walk, but I have to be aware. So I'm limited physically in comparison to how I was before. But having said that, I'm still quite good. And physically means that I have to reduce the number of hours that I work as a doctor. Doctor's work can be quite physical. So I'm having to think about how I work and change the way I work. And emotionally, I mean, that can take its toll on you, because again, it affects your finances, it affects your relationship, it affects that family life, it affects the way you think about yourself, you just everything. So emotionally, it can be quite taxing, but again, I've dealt with that. And of course, spiritually, again, I mentioned as a Christian, it makes you question your faith, because I feel like I'm somebody who used to do my best, do my exercises, eat well, everything, and then trust God, all of these things. And then, Lord, why did this happen to me? Because like I said, I didn't have the conventional risk factors. But that in itself is an opportunity for you to do introspection. And certainly it was for me. And I've done a lot of that. And I, in retrospect, can look back and say, there are things that I should have addressed earlier. For example, stress is not written as an independent risk factor for heart attack. So it's, it's not listed. You'll have the high blood pressure and the diabetes and the high cholesterol and all of those. Stress is not one of those, as I said, but it is. And certainly in my case, I do believe that was a big factor. Stress from the work, working, having a high pressure job, having to make decisions, being a woman, I had a family, husband, family, children, and just doing all those things can be quite stressful. And I was doing what I thought was enough in terms of relaxation, but now I realize I wasn't intentional enough about doing those things. So in retrospect, there are things that I would definitely change. Night shift takes its toll on your body, all those things. So I believe that all of those things added up. And I don't have high blood pressure, and I didn't at the time. I'm not sure what Dr. Mark would say about this, but there are some studies to suggest that if, as a woman, you experienced pregnancy-induced hypertension, it increases your risk of later getting things like a heart attack. And I did have pregnancy-induced hypertension, even though the blood pressure was normal after birth. So a lot of things that, looking back.
Well, thank you so very much for being so open and honest about your experience. And I feel that it is definitely encouraging to our viewers to know that there is indeed life after having had a heart attack, but also it's very important, as you've mentioned, to understand the risks and the symptoms so that you can identify it as you were able to. And it is just so fantastic to see you looking so beautiful and radiant and healthy today. And thank you very much for your time.
Welcome back, guys. We have a guest, Emmanuel, joining us. He's going to be talking about his experience of heart attack. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for joining us on this show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to go straight to the questions. What happened to you on the day you had your heart attack? And did you have any symptoms at all?
It was a Monday morning. I remember coming out of the shower, just straight out of the shower. As soon as I hit the corridor, chest pains basically suddenly just came out of nowhere. The chest pain basically felt like a rock was in my chest, and it was just turning, and it just kept going. And all of a sudden, felt like it took me back to school days where we used to mess around. And there was a moment where it felt like a friend or someone will play fight with. When they punch you in your chest, it felt like that, and that kept going. That pain just kept going for 45 minutes, basically. And as that kept going, I remember my wife was there, my children. I have 4 children, by the way. So you could imagine what it was just like in that moment. I was just like, babes, I don't know what's going on. Something's not right. Something's not right. Something's not right. But, I'm a hardworking man. And usually when I go through certain pains or like headaches and stuff like that, I usually just power it off and just continue. But this time around, it just kept going. The pain just kept going. So even for my wife, she's used to me just going, it's all right. You go and do what you want to do. So my wife went for her morning run. My children were getting ready to go to the summer club. And this pain just kept going. Now, for myself, I was just either leaning on the wall, just in shock, like, what is going on? What is going on? So I took a moment after like 20 minutes to say, all right, let's look into this. Googled it, because the pain was right in my chest, which is something I've never had before, which is when I realized that something's definitely not right. It's not on the left, it's not on the right, it's just right down the middle. And that's when I said, all right, cool, let's call 999. My missus came straight back home. It was when I sat on the bed, and when I called them and I got back up to get ready, that's when I started feeling lightheaded. Then I started getting tingling pains in my shoulder, which was very weird. Again, just different things that started happening. Then when they came, they said, "Can you come downstairs?" I said, "Yep." So when I walked downstairs again, just the lightheaded, all of a sudden, so that's when the lack of breath started to kick in at that moment as well. Now, obviously, I don't know the symptoms for any heart attack or anything like that. You just watch a film and you just feel like in films they clutch their chest, they fall back, and that's that. So I said, if that's not happening to me, this is not what I think it is. So as soon as I got downstairs, I sat down. The lack of breath that I had, I said to myself, this is definitely not me, because what is going on? I play football when I can, every other Tuesday. I'm an active person. I'm a youth work manager. So this can't be what I think it is. Definitely not.
Do you have any other symptoms just before that, or was it just the pain in the chest that started it?
No, there was no symptoms at all. What I do remember was the weekend before that, me and my wife went away to a hotel. We were celebrating our 10-year anniversary. And I remember going swimming. That was the first time I've been swimming for a while. I remember we went into the sauna and the steam room. And in those rooms, obviously you can't breathe, or you're taking a lot of steam and so on and so forth. I remember saying, okay, I can't breathe now, I'm getting out of here. And I remember going back to my bed. I said to myself, something doesn't feel right. Something was very weird, but you can't explain it. Now, as you know, I'm just one of those people that I just go ahead, like whatever's happening. I'm just like, oh, we're gonna keep it moving anyway. Let's just keep it going. So that's exactly what I done. So I still managed to just get myself to sleep through it. The next Sunday morning came. The same thing. It wasn't a pain, it was discomfort, which to me felt like, don't worry about it. It's a discomfort. It's not a pain, so don't worry about it. So I said, okay, cool. So I just didn't even talk about it, didn't mention it to my wife, just kept it going. Said, nothing's gonna spoil this weekend. We're gonna have a good time. And no symptoms. That was just I just kept it going. Yeah.
And before you had this, do you know anything about heart attack? Do you know the symptoms, or did you know anything about it previously?
I knew absolutely nothing. About heart attack. I felt like maybe it was a bit maybe a bit silly just to assume that, you know, these things will never happen to me or never happen to any of us, you know. But I'll definitely say that in this season, it's definitely something to learn and take away, that, you know, it could happen to any one of us at any moment. I mean, like the doctor said, Manuel, you're 34 years old, you're not overweight. Did you take the jab? Are you working out? Are you this and that? And, you know, every question was like, no. Do you have blood pressure in the family? No. Da, 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 da. And then, but yet here we are, you know. It was definitely an eye opener just to be like, you know what, at any time it could happen to anyone. So just look after yourself and just be aware, call the ambulance if you're not sure, just to be careful and just to make sure you're in a good place or someone's informed of what's happening.
Now that you've gone through that, what do you value more in life now that you're recovered and you're recovering? What do you value? Your perception of life change after having that experience?
Yeah, well, life has changed, but I feel like in this situation, from what the doctors told me, because obviously eventually after that, I didn't have another heart attack, but I found myself back in hospital after 2 weeks, just because the pains just kept coming, basically. Obviously, like Carol mentioned earlier, you know, the amount of medication now you have to take every single day, and the medication we have to take for the rest of our life. You know, it's a lot of medication. But, you know, in all, I just said to myself, you know what? The doctor said, look, man, you have to look after yourself. No more oily foods. No more of this. No more of these snacks. No more of this. No more of that. No more of this. So certain things I said to myself, you know what? Let's start taking your diet seriously now. Start working out maybe a bit more than you were before. Being very intentional. But if I was to say anything that I take definitely more serious is my relationship with God, because I really do feel like in this season it was definitely a thing of, right, I already know you're faithful, but, you know, bring me through the mud, then yeah, you've taken my faith to a new level. So it definitely showed that now I've basically taken the love for myself up to another level. The love for myself obviously now pours out into my children, pours out into my wife, pours out into my community, my church, because they were the ones that literally came around me and were looking after me and bringing me wache when I was in my hospital bed. So it's like in these moments, the love and support that you receive it's amazing to see, and obviously very important to pour back out into your community wherever you can, you know. So yeah.
That's so great. So it's always good to have like family, and have, you know, people around that would help you out during your recovery period. How's recovery been like? How's it been like for you, and what are you doing now? Do you have to go to the hospital more often, or just how's the recovery process been like from when it started to now?
I would say the recovery process so far has been I want to say slightly not annoying, but a little bit annoying. Just because, you know, it's now a thing of, you know, GP appointments every single month, phone appointments with the hospital, again, scans every other month as well. But also, you know, sometimes I can't help think that, you know, whenever I feel a sort of something in my chest, is it happening again? What's that? It makes you think at times, what's that? Something doesn't feel right. Because the truth is, after all of that happened, my chest, sometimes it feels a bit more sensitive than it ever was.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Emmanuel, for, you know, giving us this detailed journey. Dr. Mark, if we were to want more information, where can we go?
So first of all, I will just say that, again, just to reiterate, getting chest pain, don't ignore it. If you're having chest pain, you're not certain about it, call 999 or NHS 111. If you want to read about further information about heart attacks, you can go to the website www.nhs.uk/heart attack, where you will have further information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mark, for coming and for sharing with us. Thank you, Dr. Carol, for coming, for sharing your personal experience, sharing your professional experience, and being very open, to help us. And thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It's got us thinking. It's got me thinking about the fried eggs I was going to have right after this. So really, thank you. Thank you so much. And of course, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Kalisha, for being here today. Thank you, viewers, for watching. We hope this has been really, really useful. Thank you, and see you next time on Ladies Lounge.